mean no offense to you, and I mean no offense to First Take, because I think this show is extremely valuable. It is an honor to be on this desk every day. It really is. But what we've just witnessed is the problem with this show, where we create narratives that do not exist in reality. The implication, what you are implying, that the white voters that vote on NBA are racist, that they favor white people. You just said that.
Look, I know that there's this narrative going around the NBA media that players who look like Jokic are more likely to win the MVP. But that's not what this video is about. The point of this video is to explain why the Joker's playstyle is so unique that he's making it nearly impossible for voters to deny him the MVP. You see, Jokic is on the verge of winning his third straight MVP, putting him up there with greats like Moses Malone, Larry Bird, and Magic Johnson. Now, to understand how Jokic got to this point of not only possibly winning 3 MVPs, but doing it back-to-back, we have to go all the way to his first MVP season, which was in 2021, where Nikola went from a solid all-star to a top 3 superstar in the league overnight. And the biggest difference between 2020 and 2021 for Jokic was his offensive production, with his points per game going from 19 to 26.4. Now, Jokic may not have led the league in points like Steph Curry, who was far and ahead the best scorer at the time, or had as many assists that season as Russell Westbrook, who snagged 763, which was 100 more than any other player in the league. Hell, Jokic didn't even lead the league in the most important stat for big men, apparently, according to Andre Drummond, with Clint Capella getting almost 4 more rebounds than Jokic per game. But the reason for Nikola Jokic winning the MVP, besides people having voter fatigue for Giannis, is because Jokic had the best all-around game. And if you look at Jokic's competitors that season, it didn't really look like there was any debate with who was winning this award. And the easiest way to prove this is the fact that Jokic walked away with 91 of the 101 votes for first place. But where did the other 10 votes go, you might be wondering? Well, for starters, 5 of them went to 2-time MVP Stephen Curry, who was coming off of an injury-riddled 2020 season where he only played in 5 games. Now, Curry made a hell of a case for himself in 2021, with the guard averaging the most points that season at 32 per game, a career high by the way. Unfortunately for Curry, his field goal percentage along with rebounds and assists weren't nearly as good as Jokic. And the third place finisher, who only got 1 vote himself for first place, met the same fate as Steph Curry, with Joel Embiid dominating in 2 areas of the game, as he averaged nearly 29 points and 11 rebounds back in 2021. However, one of the major factors for voters choosing Jokic over Embiid is because Embiid only played in 51 games that season, which many didn't see as enough for the big man to deserve to win the award. And it also didn't help that Embiid averaged what was nearly a career-low 2.8 assists. But can you blame the guy when he's got teammates like Ben Simmons? As for the remaining first-place votes, 2 of them went to Giannis, with another going to Chris Paul, which shouldn't be that surprising. But if you were able to add up all the votes I stated, that's only 100, which means that there's 1 vote that has gone unaccounted for. But there is one key difference with this last vote. Now, if you're at all familiar with the NBA, then you know how fan service heavy this league is, which is exactly why the league gave 1 vote to the fans. Now, who exactly did the fans vote for in 2021 as their MVP? Well, it wasn't guys like LeBron James or Kawhi Leonard or even a star that young people like Luka Doncic. No, the fans voted for Derrick Rose. Not to throw any shade at the guy, but he was far from deserving of any MVP considerations that year, considering the fact that he had been washed for a decade plus. Alright, let's get back to Jokic and move away from the 21 season and on to 2022, where the Serbian continued to find success. Even though voter fatigue is a real thing, the Denver Nugget phenom made it really hard for voters to deny him back-to-back trophies, with his scoring numbers, blocks, steals, rebounds, and shooting percentage going up and up. Now, although Jokic improved at almost every aspect of his game, there was one man who could have potentially stood in Jokic's way, and that was the troll himself, Joel Embiid, who was arguably robbed the year before, but this time, Embiid came with a vengeance. He wanted to make sure that there was almost no reason for why Jokic should win the award over him. So he stayed healthy, played in 68 games, and had a hell of a season, with his scoring crossing the 30-point threshold for the first time ever, and his defense was looking even better than before, with his steals and blocks going up. And not only that, but Embiid was able to improve on one of his arguably biggest flaws in passing, with his assist numbers jumping all the way to 4.2 per game. Plus, Embiid was able to carry his team to a higher seed in his respective conference than Jokic, but also just an overall better record. Yet, all of this wasn't enough for the voters to see past the beautiful way that the Joker plays basketball, which is kind of understandable. Anyway, when it came to the voting aspect of the MVP race this time around, it was much tighter, with Jokic only walking away with 65 first place votes, with a majority of the missing votes going straight to, you guessed it, Sixers legend Joel Embiid, who got a solid 26 votes himself. And in third place was Giannis Antetokounmpo, who had a pretty underrated season, with the big man averaging 30, 12, and 6, which is nothing to sneeze at. Plus, just like Embiid with the Sixers, Giannis was also able to carry the Bucks to a better record than Jokic did with the Nuggets, which may have been why he snagged 9 first place votes himself. That is how a little Serbian boy who grew up in the 90s was able to shock the world and win back-to-back MVPs. But the reason I'm here is because he's on the verge of a third, and I don't know why. Because nearly everyone else who is competing for the award this season has an argument for why they should win it over Jokic. First off, you have Giannis Antetokounmpo, who has not only led his team to a better record thus far in 2023, but he's also done it in a harder conference. Plus, Giannis is averaging nearly 10 more points per game than Jokic, while also having more rebounds per game. And then you have Jason Tatum, who again averages like 6 more points than the Joker, which is a trend you begin to notice with everyone else in the MVP race. And another thing that Tatum has over Jokic is the simple fact that Tate is a proven winner. Now, I know that the MVP is a regular season award, but when a trophy is supposed to go to the most valuable player, usually that most valuable player in the league is good enough to take his team past the conference finals. That's being generous. Like, come on, Jokic has only made it to the third round once, and that was 3+ years ago. Hell, the so-called MVP of the league got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs just last year. I mean, at least when Steve Nash was stealing MVP awards from the league, he was getting to the conference finals in those years, which he did twice, just saying. So when it comes to who I think is under the most pressure to win a championship this year, I'd have to easily say it's Nikola Jokic without a doubt. Because if he not only goes on to win a third MVP, but also gets bounced in the second round again, it puts the legitimacy of this award at risk. And soon, people are going to have to start looking at who the most clutch player of the year is instead. I mean, I could easily see some kids at the playground talking about how De'Aaron Fox is an all-time great because he has more clutch player of the years than MJ. I'm playing, of course. Alright, if you want to know more about the NBA and why I think Atlanta has such a toxic culture, then click this video on the left. Or if you're more into football, then click this video about how Carson Wentz managed to lose everything overnight. See y'all next time. Deuces.